What is happening, people? Welcome to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. In this week's episode, we'll be reviewing that Newcastle defeat, touching on the January transfer window, and previewing Liverpool in the Carabao Cup first leg semi-final. I'm joined by a fantastic panel to get straight into this. Firstly, Simon, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm feeling calm, collected. Looking forward to this cup game. Still haven't gotten over this weekend's game, or at least I haven't gotten over the refereeing, but I'm not going to be an Arsenal fan and moan too much about it. So, yeah, other than that, I'm just happy Christmas and New Year's over.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to hear. Yeah, Arsenal fans, they love a moan, don't they? We won't be doing that here. We'll be trying to be balanced and level-headed. Johnny, thank you very much for coming on your debut on the podcast. How you doing?
Oh, super. It's great to be on the first podcast with you there, Harry. But it's been a tough weekend, obviously, with another defeat. But look, there's some positives and also some reality as well. And we'll talk about that. I'm sure during the show as well. But look, it's the start of a new year, and let's hope it's a good year for Spurs.
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed. Thank you very much for joining us. Jim, welcome back from the Oh So Spurs podcast. Always fantastic to have you on. How you been doing, mate?
I've been doing very well, thanks. Appreciate you having me on again, Harry. All good this side. Excited by our new signing. Blindly optimistic about our game against Liverpool. Semi-finals don't come around often. Savor them, appreciate them, do your best to enjoy them even when they're tough. So yeah, I'm all good. Thanks, mate.
Exactly that. No, thank you very much. I'm totally with you on that in terms of being optimistic. I think, we have no choice at the moment. You've got to try and be optimistic. No good moaning. It's not going to change anything. So no, I'm totally with you on that one. Connor, welcome back onto the podcast. How you been doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Just looking forward to Wednesday, but I'm probably enjoying the pre-match build-up more than I'm actually going to enjoy the game.
Quite possibly get you good food in before anything you want to do to remember before the game. But no, we could be surprised. You never know. But thank you all for joining me this evening. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so, and it helps the channel and the podcast grow. If you're listening via audio on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review, and shout out to our sponsors in Security VPN and the Kitman. Let's crack straight into it. Lineups going back before the start of the game for people who didn't see it. Our lineup was Brandon Austin making his debut, Porro, Dragusin, Gray, Spence, then midfield of Saar, Bergevall and Kulusevski, and Johnson, Werner and Solanke up top. As I said there, Brandon Austin making his debut, which was great to see. We'll get into his performance in a bit. Our substitutes were Whiteman, Dorrington, Hardy, Reguilon, Basuma, Lise, Maddison, Son, and Lancashire. Simon, any surprises in there for you? Maybe in that starting 11 or on the bench?
I mean, the starting 11 had surprises for me, at least. I was actually imagining something way, way, way worse. I was imagining no Dragusin. I didn't think we would see Gray. So just having those two in the starting up, because they were sick, obviously, and just having those two players back in the lineup made me happy. Imagine that. Biggest can't be choosers. Other than that, no, not so much. I think Son not starting, Werner starting was a little bit of a surprise. But then you kind of start thinking about this cup game coming up, and it starts to make a little bit more sense. Yeah. Other than that, not so much surprised.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon. By the way, to anyone listening, apologies if there's any delay or anything. My end, currently experiencing technical issues. I'm just saying to the guys, we're off air, final day, and of course you get to the show and it's not now. It's always the way, isn't it? But Johnny, what were your thoughts on that lineup at the time?
Well, I mean, the goalkeeper coming in for his debut, I think, was the big surprise, and he had a good look. I mean, you're playing for a Premier League football team and a team like Spurs, and you're brought in. I don't know how much notice he had, during the week when he was training, or was it a last minute thing? But he came in and he did as good a job as as he could, and it's definitely one for the future. And I suppose that's one positive as well. I was surprised Heung-min Son and Maddison didn't start. I thought that was like, it's Newcastle, and I think back in September they beat us 2-1, if I'm not mistaken, at their ground, St James's Park. So there was a little bit of, when you lose at their ground, in the dressing room, you've got to be kind of saying, right, it's revenge time, guys. We've got to beat them at our ground. And, it didn't happen for various reasons. But I would have started Son. I know the Liverpool game's coming up. I know that. But I still think the selection, I think he was hoping probably, I think after 60 minutes he brought on Matters and he brought on Son, whatever. He was probably hoping he'd be a bit further ahead in the game, maybe 2-0 up, and then bring them on to try and win it, just to see it out or something. I don't know, but he's a risk taker, and sometimes the risks don't come off. And I think on this occasion, probably the selection, well, apart from the goalkeeper there, I think the selection wasn't right. I would have started with the strongest team I had there available, and then just worry about Liverpool then on Wednesday or whatever. But look, it is what it is, and it's great to see that goalkeeper come in and what a job he did.
Yeah, he certainly did. Yeah, we'll get into his performance and others a little bit later. But thank you, Johnny Minanch is certainly a risk taker. I think wherever you stand with him, I think that's one thing we can all agree on. He does take risks. Jim, I'll come to you next, because Johnny mentioned there about Maddison and Son being on the bench. Did that take you by surprise?
It would have, but about 2 hours before the game, someone leaked that they were two of the players that were clenching their backsides due to this illness that was going around. So I think based on when you look at who was actually on the pitch, the only fit players on the bench, senior player on the bench was Reguilon. The rest of the bench, considered Sonny, who was ill, Maddison, who was ill, Whiteman, Lancashire, Dorrington, Callum Latif, and Hardy. So I think his just options were just so unbelievably limited, which was a huge shame. And I will go into it more later, because I feel you could even just having players like Richarlison and Moore on the bench that game would have probably been the difference between a loss and a draw. But there you go. We played with, should we say, 9 full senior players and 2 half players, just because they weren't fully fit. And you could see that when Sonny came on, right? He could barely track back or run. He just looked like he was in a lot of pain, bless him. And he's a brave man. So yeah, it didn't surprise me too much. Long story short, no.
Yeah, I saw that as well. So as you said, it was a surprise probably before then, but not when that come out. I mean, it's the beauty, I suppose, of social media, and actually get these leaks. Obviously, some aren't true. We get things like the fixtures leaked at the start of the season. I mean, I'd never find that true, but when it comes to team news, it often is right. What are you thinking, Connor, at the time with your, the lineup come out? Any big surprises in there for you?
I'm sorry. I'm in agreement with Simon, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it to be as strong a lineup as it was. I think with all the illnesses, maybe it was almost blown out of proportion, to be honest. I was expecting maybe like a youth player or something like that to be in the team somewhere, but fortunately we had enough players. Well, still not enough, but enough for what we've got at the moment. Yeah, from what I saw, because I wasn't able to watch the whole match, but saw most of it on match days, had work. But I thought Brandon Austin was pretty good, so I wasn't actually as worried. When I first saw the lineup, I was quite worried that we'd have probably leaked quite a few goals. But no, that's about it for the lineup, really. I wasn't too surprised.
No. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. People, who didn't see it, out of interest, the Newcastle starting 11 was Dubravka, Hall, Byrne, Botman, Livramento, Joelinton, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Gordon, Murphy, and Isak. Botman played his first game in 294 days after being injured for nearly 10 months. I mean, that's an awfully long time. But onto the game and the action itself, and Simon will kick it off with you. 4th minute, first goal of the game. It goes to Spurs to make it 1-0, and it comes through Dominic Solanke. I mean, let's focus firstly on the cross from Pedro Porro. I mean, that's a special cross, isn't it? Instinctive cross. It's
an amazing cross. And I thought, it was such a nice moment for us to be reminded of what he actually can bring the team, because he's gotten a lot of flacks and some of it, maybe even most of it, rightly so, because he haven't been great. He's been overplayed. He's been missing assignment on defensive assignments. So it was nice to see what he can bring in the offensive end. And I thought it was nice to see him play in a more traditional fullback role, in the sense of us actually being a little bit more direct with our crossing, and him being the deliverer of those crosses. Someone told me Solanke was the player who scored the most headed goals last season. So we haven't been incredibly good at servicing him and servicing that attribute in his profile. So it's nice to see him to see both those players get to kind of exercise those skills that they have. So yeah, great goal.
Yeah, 100%. And Solanke, I think he's done it, exceptionally, and I don't think he gets the service he deserves. And I do worry that maybe we run him into the ground, but he's doing exceptionally at the moment. And you hear a lot of people moan about the price tag. Other football fans, just little digs at the money we spent on Solanke. But I think it's proved recently why we spent the big money. You have to spend big to get big ultimately, and I think Solanke has proved to be a good sign as the season progresses. But Johnny, we'll come to you next. Solanke himself, that goal, I mean, he still has a lot to do, doesn't he? And he does do it well.
Oh, I mean, Harry Kane scored goals like that for us. I mean, it was a great dive into the header. He's definitely a great signing for us. He really fits. Him and Kulusevski, like, they've been really, really good signings for Spurs. That they know what Spurs is all about. That style, that quality on the ball, and he's just slotted in very quickly. We've had players in the past, who've come in and we're all kind of hoping, they're going to score this week, and another week goes by and they haven't scored. Solanke just, he might have had one or two games where he's a bit quiet, but to be fair, we're getting a lot of goals from him lately, and he has that instinct in front of the goal. So the future is bright with him, and he seems to be staying injury free. I know earlier in the season he was injured, but he seems to be much better now. But the only thing is that we need somebody prolific at the moment. Our problems aren't in the strike force; it's mainly in the back, and there's lots of reasons for that. But if we could sort out the back line, we'd be okay. It's just that the strikers, I think, we have Richarlison coming back soon, I imagine, or he's probably back. I don't know. But we need them firing on all cylinders because we're leaking goals. So the more goals we score, the better it is for us. If we're not scoring goals, then we're in trouble. So far, it's looking good for Solanke,
Yeah, it absolutely is. No, thank you, Johnny. Nicely put. Jim, I'll come to you. Keeping the subject on Dominic Solanke, what have you made of him this season? Do you think he's got better as the games have gone by?
Yeah, I think there's very few people who would say, he was not worth what we paid. I think he was definitely worth that. I think there's a solid discussion to be had to say, do we need another option up front who's more of an out-and-out goal scorer for certain types of games? But he is brilliant at what he does. We know he's a complete grafter. He's excellent at build-up play. He's an intelligent player. He's clearly got a good attitude and his head screwed on. He's not the type of player you have to worry about going out to a nightclub the day before a big game. And he's very well experienced as well. I think we often overlook, we talk about not having enough experience in the squad, but I think Solanke is one of those that holds that experience for us. Now, I think he's been let down a little bit this season by his peers, and that's not, that as a result hasn't allowed him to hit his full potential. And that is because our wingers, haven't been up to scratch for various reasons. We can talk about the system. We can talk about whether it's the player. We can talk about endless injuries, whatever. There's multiple reasons why, but those why players haven't enabled his brilliant link-up play to show the true fruits of what it could. He really reminds me of a better Firmino for Liverpool that, Klopp said it, if you can't see it, I can't be bothered to explain it to you. And I kind of feel like that with Solanke when people start criticising him going, oh, it's only 5 goals, whatever. If you can't see it, I can't be bothered to have the conversation, because anyone who's watched Spurs for more than 60 minutes over the course of the season would say he's a fantastic footballer, a great signing. We need to help him, though. We do need to sign someone. It would have been Richarlison if he could stay fit. I think he would have been an okay backup. But if he's not going to be that guy, I'd like to know that we can take Solanke off and give him a 30-minute break every now and again. Because you take these players for granted, you run them to the ground, and you lose your golden goose. So you need to be a bit careful.
Absolutely that. I guess I think you're spot on there, Jim. So thank you very much. Connor, I'll come back to you. On that first goal for us itself, shifting the focus back to that. What did you make of it? Because it was a dream start to the game, wasn't it?
So brilliant cross from Porro. That's more. It's what you want to see from him, because when we first bought him, I was seeing all these clips of his crossing ability, and everyone was raving about how good he was at crossing the ball. And we didn't get to see that quite as much when he actually joined, but that was a really good cross. It was almost like watching a Trent cross, to be honest. But as for the finish, it was a really good header. Like Johnny said, it was almost Kane-esque the way he guided it into the bottom corner. But it's nice to have that sort of striker that can score a goal like that, as well as, like a nice tidy finish. We've seen him chip one over the goalkeeper this season. He's quite all-rounded, and that's what I quite like about Solanke. He's almost like, nobody could be like Harry Kane, but he does have similarities in his play, where it's like, when Kane didn't get on the score sheet, he would always have a good game, or most of the time have a good game. And I've noticed that with Solanke a lot this season, where if he hasn't scored, then he's contributed in another way with his work rate, his pressing, or his link-up play and other things like that. So, I'm quite happy with Solanke.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. And that's a good point you make. I think you're spot on, hit the nail on the head there. Sadly, our lead didn't last long. 2 minutes later, in the 6th minute, Newcastle levelled it to make it 1-1 through Anthony Gordon. Johnny, we'll start with you on this one. I mean, I've got to ask about it. I know how I feel, but I want to get your guys' thoughts. Is that handball by Joelinton? Yes.
Well, the rule says that if there's a clear handball leading up to a goal, I mean that it should be disallowed, and they allowed it. Now the FA say that because Joelinton didn't score the goal, that it was Anthony Gordon that scored the goal. That's why it was allowed. So the rules, it's a wishy-washy rule, to be honest. Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't go for you. And I know Ange, after the game, I think 9 times in his presser with that BBC journalist Sam, said it wasn't a level playing field. I think that's what he was, talking about, that particular incident. I think overall, after that, I think it was pretty much a level playing field. But apart from that, I think that's what he was referring to. So he might get fined for that. I don't know. But in terms of that goal, the goal, look, we shouldn't be conceding so soon after scoring. Solanke did a big job for us there, and then 2 minutes 20 seconds later, we concede, and that's been the problem. We score first, and then the opposition score, and then you feel they're going to score it again. But look, it was Newcastle are a good side. They beat us already 2-1 at their ground, and they have a good manager in Eddie Howe. Is he a gatekeeper for that club? I don't know. Maybe the owners have somebody better in mind. But when he maybe Pep or something, if he leaves Manchester City, will go to Newcastle. Who knows? But Eddie's still doing a decent job with that team. They've 5 wins in a row. But the goal, just to get back to the goal, no, it was a handball. It was a clear handball. It's like you can kind of see it, like it's hitting him like that. I know it's down by his side, but it's still hit. He's still stopping the ball. So in my view, it's a handball.
Yeah, and I'm completely with you on that. Simon, handball for you?
100%. Sorry about that. My fat thumbs don't always work the way I want them to. 100%. I mean, to me, it's a couple of things that annoy me. One thing is what Mr. Johnny here brought out. I think like Ange plays in a way that's risky. We know this, and so Berva was about to play this brilliant pass. He was in total control. It was about to play this dangerous but brilliant pass, and then the ball hits the hand, and it totally changes direction. Now, one of the things that annoy me is that it's clearly a handball, and I think the referee sees it, but he gets scared, as many of these referees do, and so he defers. He thinks that, okay, the VR will sort this out. And then we come into this thing that And is very critical of, which is that the referee on the pitch isn't really refereeing the game, but VR is the ones the referee in the VR is the one who referees the game. I think if that was a situation where the rules said that when it's not deliberate, it should go, we would have seen a lot more goals like that, but we haven't. Because just a couple of minutes later, or if it was in the second half, I don't really remember, but when Burns get that ball on his arm, he does blow the whistle. So clearly he thinks that it is a handball in those situations when it hits the arm. So to me, it's just so confusing. I think it totally changes the game state, and so it totally changes the nature of the game. And so instead of being in front and being in control, it gets us in this other mode where we have to start chasing the game again. And so it's totally, changes the game. And I think it's a disgrace, honestly. And then I actually hate talking about the referee. So it's just
so do I.
That they have me feeling that way.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much, Simon. Jim, I'll come to you. It's handball, isn't it? I mean, Simon says there, and I'm totally with him. I don't like to focus on officials or make excuses. I always think you can focus on yourself and your own performance. But this had a big impact on the game, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely did. I mean, it was. I don't really say no. Anyone can debate it. If you have a chat with a peer, that's a Newcastle fan, they'll get as much enjoyment out of knowing it was an outrageous decision and winding you up that they got away with it as much as anything else, which I think just sums up the whole situation, really. If we had that situation as Spurs fans against a club like Arsenal, I would be almost happier that we'd gotten away with such an outrageous decision, just knowing that it would, make them so angry. And it's one of those, Newcastle fans know they got away with that game, that goal, for numerous reasons. But hey, look, it's water under the bridge. I look back and I try and think, look, these are infuriating. But when you look back at handballs, you get lucky on. They can never take away the one where Llorente handballed in a goal in the Champions League quarterfinals against Man City that saw us through in injury time. So, hey, maybe the gods thought, hey, you're owed one back now, unfortunately, guys. But I wouldn't trade that for the world. We move on.
No, that is very true. Controversy around that one, but the special night nonetheless. I mean, I'd love to get back to those days. Connor, I'll come to you next. I want to get your thoughts again as well on the handball from Jolinton, because I think one of the guys mentioned, I think Johnny, you mentioned earlier, it completely changes the direction, doesn't it? It's not one of them where, like, I don't know, it hits his hand, but there's no change in direction. This is very, very clear. Of course, it's accidental, but it completely changes the direction in favour of Newcastle, and that's ultimately why they scored the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, the ball's clearly going to go over to the flanks, which is where Broka's trying to get it, but it literally hits Jolinton's hand and lands at his feet into a perfect through ball. I don't see how that's not deemed as, interfering with play. Maybe if it had tapped someone's hand and hardly changed its path or direction, then maybe you'd have less to say as a referee. But I don't know. I'm really not sure how that's not been given. But the thing is, I agree with you. I don't want to sit here and complain about the officiating all the time, because it does just get boring. Whereas, we all know that you're going to have days where things go your way. You're going to have days where things don't go your way. And unfortunately, it was one of those days where it just didn't go our way.
No, exactly that. I mean, take nothing away from the goal in terms of the finish from Gordon, who I thought was very good. Still had a lot to do, but I don't think it should have been allowed. Connor, we'll stick with you. I'm afraid one more decision to talk about, then we can move on completely from referees, officiating, you name it. And that is around Dan Burn, whether he should have received the second yellow for handball, where his hand wasn't in a natural position. What do you make of this one? Because the referees deemed it as handball. I think we've seen them, being given as yellow cards, haven't we?
Again, it's a tough one because on one day it might be given, on the next day it might not be given. I think probably should have been given, but to be honest, there's no telling. It's quite tough, the handball rule these days. You just don't know what is and isn't deemed. And I saw, who was it? I saw it was on TalkSport. They were like getting out the rule book and stuff and going through that and pointing out why the Joe Linton one, for example, wasn't a handball and stuff. But it's just like you just don't know the rules, and it's almost like nobody does.
I think that's part of the problem, definitely. Thank you, Connor. Johnny, what were your thoughts on this in particular decision? And you with Connor in terms of we just didn't get the rub of the green in this game, and you have to move on from that.
Yeah, we're not getting the rub of the green in a lot of games, to be fair. And look, there's various reasons why that is. We had illness. I mean, it's always us, isn't it? It always seems to be us who gets these viruses, and it happened. Remember Virus Gate many years ago as well. But look, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone has a home and away game. You have to try and win your home games and then try and get as many points as you can in the away games. Look at where we are placed at the moment in the Premier League. We're 12th. But look at the goal difference. The goal difference really means we should be 4th, 3rd or 4th. I mean, I can't remember a team placed 12th with that amount of goals for. I mean, it's crazy, but that's where we are. If we can sort out the defence, everything, like, we'll be in the top 4. There's no doubt about that. But the decision on the handball, look, that changed everything, because Solanke scores. The guys need to really get together. I mean, this should be done in training, where you know when you score. It's a basic thing. You need not to concede. You can't concede. You really have to do everything you can not to concede, because Newcastle are going to throw everything with the kitchen sink at you. And that's what they did. And they're very cagey, you see a lot of those managers, and I've spoken about it before. Eddie Howe, Nuno Espirito Santo, the Fulham manager, they're cagey with their tactics, with their strategy. And because Ange plays a very direct way of playing, and it's just attack. And hopefully he scores more goals than the opposition do. They come up with these plans in training all week. And the players themselves know what they're going to do when they come out to face us. And so, who's going to win? The team attacking, or the team that has a really good strategy and a plan to try and halt what you're doing? And that's how we're losing these games. And I know we have a depleted defence. There's lots of other reasons, the virus and everything. I know that. I know there's other reasons why. But at the same time, we're in 12th, and that's not where Tottenham Hotspur should be. I think with the team that's there at the moment, even though there's issues with injuries and all that, they should be higher in the table. And I think in some of I think Ange himself, he needs a little bit more training with the media, because he seems to get very bullish with them when he's talking to them, and kind of gets a little angry with them. And I know they're asking tough questions, but they're going to keep asking tough questions. And he has to, look at Eddie Howe, how he talks to the media. It's very pleasant, and he has a bit of a laugh with them and all that sort of stuff. But Ange is because we're losing, he's going to get really tough questions, and he has to learn how to handle that, because in the Scottish Premiership he probably didn't have to deal with that because he was winning all the time.
Yeah.
And then when he was in Japan, it was the same story. But now he's in the Premier League, and it's totally different ball game. You got all these managers with all these styles of play, and they want to thwart how Spurs play, and they know how we play, and they have a plan. And this is where the big issue is. So, you hear people saying about Plan B and all that. I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't know whether he has another way of playing, or if he changes his tactics during the match. But from where I'm looking, it just looks like it's the same kind of style. That's what you get. I'm going to keep playing that way until we keep winning. And because he doesn't have the squad at the moment, because it's depleted, he's not able to fill that. And that's where the issue is. If he had a full squad, Van de Ven was back and everybody was fit, and Richarlison was there, then we'd probably be in 4th. Because you look at the goals, we're scoring loads of goals, no issue with goals. It's just when we score goals, we're so open at the back. Other teams are able to get behind us and score, and that's where the problem is at the moment.
And Johnny, can I just quickly interject there? I saw a stat the other day where, and you talk about, because you're right, I really agree with everything there. Where do you think we rank in terms of goals conceded away from home?
I'd say we've conceded quite a lot, more than most, have we?
Not a lot.
We've got the best defensive away record in the Premier League.
I knew that.
We conceded the least goals away, and I found that staggering, which shows to me our issue is defence at home. Because you're right, we look so exposed. If we do concede, we conceded 6 against Liverpool, for goodness sake. But that just shows, why is our home defensive record so bad?
So strange
that it's dragged us to 12th, despite having.
I think I can partially answer that. Before the Chelsea game, we had the third best defense, as the third least conceded goals.
Yeah.
So that Liverpool game was what really messed us up at home. Yeah. That home record. So I think both you and Johnny are onto something here.
I still have to reread that stat and remind myself I didn't wake up and dream it. It just, my head when you watch Spurs play, I'm like, our defense is so bad and exposed, and then I go, but we're not actually conceding that many goals. It just doesn't compute in my mind. But anyway, sorry, Harry. I just felt like shoving in that because it's such an interesting one that I think just takes a while to sink in. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that last week. I mean, that's just mind-boggling, isn't it? Really. Yeah.
But you can go even deeper. I mean, because I think this is a conception of our high line is what's really messing us up. But what's really happening is, if you look at the actual goals we concede, it's the box defending and the far post things. So it's when we get crosses in, we're really bad at the far post defending, and corners comes into that. I mean, we would have an okay record, but it's that box defending thing, and sometimes it's depending on. But if you look at the data when it comes to transitional as a counterattacks, again, we were one of the better defensive teams when we had Van de Ven or Marin. So, and we still have issues and weaknesses in defense. But before we got all these injuries, we actually had a pretty solid defense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. No, it's interesting. We'll get on to Ange as well, and all our defensive troubles a little bit later in the podcast. But moving on to Newcastle's second goal, came in the 38th minute through Alexander Isak, of course. Simon, I'll tell you what, I'll come back to you for this one. Do you think it's poor from us to lose possession from a throw-in? I mean, like Solanke, we talk positively about him. He loses it in this case. Do you think it's a case if he's trying to do too much? Jim mentions in terms of his peers letting him down. I think it's a case of this. He's doing too much and he loses the ball in this situation from a throw-in.
Yeah, and it's a couple of situations there. I think Spence can do a better job of defending his player. I think he loses his 1v1 there, and I think Dragston had a bad game and was slow on his feet. But then again, it becomes this thing: what's reasonable of us to? What's the reasonable level of criticism here? Because Dragston was obviously sick; he was taken off. He had a bad game, and I don't think he's particularly good on the ball. But I also think that he was probably worse in this game because he had to train and he was obviously slow on his feet on that day. I think Spence has been one of us better players during this stint when he's come in. So I'm hesitant to be too critical. And I feel that way when it comes to Bergwall's mistake for the first goal. He's young, he's 18. He's going to make mistakes like that when he's put in that situation. So I do think you have a point, but I'm hesitant to be too critical. I kind of more felt like the game when it switched on that first goal, we kind of lost our way a bit, and then it became worse and worse before it got better in the second half.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. But no, thank you very much for that. Connor, I'll come to you. Do you think that we could do better in the situation? Obviously, we're the ones that lost possession, but at the same time, to Newcastle also deserve credit for winning it back well, and just how quick they counter.
Well, I think it'd be harsh to criticise just Solanke. He's obviously lost the ball, but in the position he's going to be in, just because one player's lost the ball in that position doesn't excuse the rest of the team for not winning it back and not defending properly.
Yeah.
You see, for the actual goal, Jacob Murphy actually gets too much space. He shouldn't have that sort of space, and then to be able to flash it across goal like that, and for no one to be on Isak as well, for him to just walk into our box so easily. And that was the second time he got into that position and had that chance, because he had a replica of that chance literally just before, which of course he missed. But I don't know. I think it'd be a bit harsh to criticise just Solanke. I think it's more of a collective thing.
Okay. Okay, I like that. No, that's a good way of looking at it. Definitely, the players can do a lot more. It's not all on Solanke, and I think that he's actually, for me, he's trying to do too much in this situation, and that's, I suppose, credit to him in a way, in terms of he's looking to carry the team, which he did do in large parts of this game. He created so many opportunities, and for me, he was unlucky to only come out of it with just a single goal for us and himself. Johnny, how do you view this second goal from Newcastle? In terms of who's to blame, is it credit Newcastle? But also talk to me about Alexander Isak. He's absolutely on fire at the moment, isn't he?
He is, absolutely. I mean, look, Thomas Tuchel was in the stadium, I think, for his first view of as an England manager, to watch some of the players that he could be selecting, and 2 English players there did very well in the match, and so I'm sure he has his eye on them. Solanke being one. Isaac, Isaac's a great player, or Isak, and his goal, like he's a great goal scorer. He's been scoring goals for Newcastle. They're now 5th in the Premier League, I think, after today, and I think they've won their last 5 games too. So, but then we have Solanke. Solanke is just as good. So we have players, just as good as Newcastle. The game was 50-50 in some cases. A decision or 2 went against us, but I think just Newcastle are in good form. They're confident at the moment. But Isak is a super player, and the goal, it was another one of those goals that we concede when the teams get in behind us and cross it into the box. And we're going to be playing Arsenal soon, and we know that they play those type of balls into the box, corners, as Simon was saying, corners and free kicks. That's going to be our Achilles heel. And Arteta is going to have the Arsenal team all ready for that at the Emirates. So, if we can train it, do some more training on that at the club, that'll help us. But Ange did say before that he's not too bothered about practicing crosses and training against crosses. He did mention that in a previous press conference last year. I don't know how much truth is in that, but that's where the rumor of the speculation came, whether we have a coach for crossing and all that sort of stuff, defensive cross. So I don't know. I'm sure they do. I can't imagine in the Premier League you don't. But I just think he just concentrates so much on attack. But look, if we had Isak, I'd love it. I mean, I'd certainly welcome a player like him into Spurs. He really is good, and his work rate's good. The stats are all good for him. But again, was it Dragusin? The ball got stuck in his feet. Am I right saying it was him?
Yeah.
That was pretty poor defending there from him. When you see the ball coming in, even if you're right-footed and you don't have a great left foot on you, you still have to get that left foot to it and just kick it out for a corner or kick it out for a throw or something. But he just fumbled the ball in there, and it just landed right in the path of Isaac. He just kicked it in. That schoolboy error in defence, and that's where it's coming down to. The players that we have in defence at the moment that are sort of replacements for the front line that are all injured, or the back line that are all injured, they're just not probably good enough in those positions, and that's what's killing Ange at the moment. And if we can get a player or 2 in defence in the January transfer window, I mean, we have a goalkeeper. We'll talk about him later. But if we can get somebody in that position to stop those balls coming in, that's what we need. And then maybe we can tidy up in the back, and we won't be conceding as many. I know, as Jim said, at home we're conceding more than we are away, which is amazing. But that's what we need. But players like Isak and there's lots of players in the Premier League that are dangerous like that. And at the moment, we're struggling to defend those type of goals. So we'll see what happens over the January transfer window. Hopefully, Ange and Daniel Levy go out on a spending spree. But I heard only 30 million or 25 million from Ennick is the budget. So we've spent something on Kinski guy, who we'll talk about later, but don't know what's left. Can't be much left to buy a decent player, you know.
I think we see loans, and I don't believe the budget to be totally honest with you. I think it needs to be. I think it will be more than that. But Jim, I'll come to you. Move on to kind of the next point. Half time, Newcastle went into it, the 2-1 lead. We know that's how it stayed. What were your thoughts on that first half overall and how we played?
Yeah, look, I know I appreciate, not everything's perfect under Ange, but I do defend him on a few things. And one is that we've used it a few times in this podcast, and it was used in the studio on Sky, and it was Spurs give the ball away needlessly again to concede a goal. But if you watch any weekend of football, unless it's a penalty or a free kick, that goal has resulted from the other team losing possession. It was funny hearing Carragher say that, then the next day watching Liverpool concede a goal because Trent gave the ball away. That resulted in a goal. And that is how 90% of goals in open play happen. One team pushes up, tries to score, fails to score, so the ball is turned over by someone else. And then they run up the other end and score while there's space. That is how literally the vast majority of Premier League goals are scored. So I think it's made out to be a Tottenham problem because we lack that number 6 in midfield. So teams just cut through us like butter on the counter. Well, from that mid part of the midfield, they just cut through it. Now, I'm really hoping, I think that game showed today that Archie Gray, you'd think he was the natural centre-back playing yesterday, not Dragosin. You'd have said Dragosin was the one playing out position. I think when we get those centre-backs back, Archie Gray should be starting in midfield because I think he would have learned and developed a lot defensively from this period. And we'll probably find ourselves, if we repeat that half with someone like Archie Gray in midfield and Van der Ven at left centre-back, we'd have probably, I think, only gone in one down, if any goals at all down in that half. So it's a shame. But look, the thing I liked the most and took away, I was in the ground at the South Stand, and the difference between that game and others this season, for whatever reason, was the crowd was so positive. And I don't know if it's because people who are fed up with Spurs just didn't bother turning up, but everyone was clapping Austin, giving him his full support. And I think he played better for it. He felt the confidence. He'd come out his box and grab balls. Players ran themselves to the ground.
The atmosphere was better, I thought, before the game as well on that.
Yeah, we fought tooth and nail for that equaliser, and we left feeling gutted as a fan base, whether you watched on TV or you watched at home, because we believed the team could come back. We backed them the whole way, and we felt we were good enough to do it. So, look, it was disappointing to go in 2-1 down. I backed us to score another goal in that game. I thought we would. But again, I think this goes to show why we have to sign a player on the wing that's more of a goal threat than what we've got. Maybe that was meant to be Wilson Odegaard. Maybe it will be. But it's just a shame we don't have him or Mikey Moore right now, because I think they'll be getting loads of minutes and they'll be developing.
It would be. Hopefully not too long away, Jim. Hopefully. But no, I'm totally with you on that. Just a couple of those attacking players, options to have off the bench, the depth, and just be able to rotate, rest is just absolutely massive. Connor, do you think that Newcastle dominated as expected in that first half?
Well, I originally expected them to dominate like the whole game, but obviously that wasn't the entire case for the second half, as we fought a lot. We fought very hard, but yeah, as for the first half, I did expect Newcastle to outplay us, and for the most part they did. But the second half, we fought back. Johnson was unlucky not to score. It was a decent shot, it hit the post. Solanke had a couple of chances, and then quite frustrating, the one from Johnson where he should have shot but flashed it across goal, and then Son flashed it back the other way. But
yeah, no, definitely that was frustrating for me, because it was two opportunities, and I think they're both trying to cross, and they push it for me. Both be trying to shoot, especially Johnson. So it's probably frustrating. We made one half-time substitution. Reguilon come on for Dragosin, and said after the game Dragosin had nothing more to give, and he's one of those that was bedridden all week, so maybe a little bit of context behind that mistake for Newcastle's second goal. Having said that, obviously he hasn't been great, as we know, recently. Simon, what did you make of Reguilon in that second half? I was personally really impressed. I don't think he has or will get the credit for it, but I thought he done well.
He did well. I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, I've been one of those who've been really understanding of him not playing. He doesn't suit what Ange wants to do. We didn't manage to sell him. We have options in Udogie and even in Spence and in Gray who are here for the longer term. So prioritizing them made sense to me. I'm happy that he's still been in training, and I like that philosophy of Ange of not freezing players out. If they're at the club, they're at the club, and so they train. And I'm happy we were able to use him. I mean, I have a hard time kind of buying into his whole shtick where he, applauds and tries to get people going. I like that he's still engaged, that he still comes out and fights for the club, but I also think he's sometimes, he feels a little bit self-serving sometimes. So I personally I'm not a huge fan of his personality in that sense. And I don't think he's a long-term fullback for us. But he had a good game when he came on. In general, that second half, we actually kind of dominated Newcastle. And I actually thought it was ironic when Dragusin went off and Spence went into that central defense position. I actually thought we looked better. He's much more mobile. And I think also like Maddison coming on, Son coming on, just gave us a little bit more control, allowed us to kind of sustain pressure. I do feel like there's a lot of talk about Ange adopting, and I think there's criticism and fair criticism towards players like Johnson, like Son. We have to remember that when you build a squad, you want different types of profiles, and you want flexibility and versatility in your options. And right now, we only have options that suit certain games. And Johnson and Son clearly don't suit games where we face a low block because they're not experts at 1v1 duels. And so they struggle. And I also think they're overplayed. And so when situations like that, obvious Brennan Johnson chance comes up, he makes the wrong decision because he's not sharp, he's not rested. On the other side, we see Porro had 6 days off. He comes on, looks much sharper. And we've seen that with Son too. When he's rested, he comes on, he looks better. And so we have a tendency sometimes to look at injuries and just look at, we have poorer options in positions. And then we think naturally that our first choice options like a Son or a Johnson, when they play, they should be able to produce. But I think it does impact players' focus, their ability to be sharp and have confidence decreases when they have to play every 3 games and have to produce and have to be consistently good, no matter what kind of opposition they're facing. So, I know I lean often on the side of being really generous and allowing for a lot of context, but that's just my take on it. I was pretty proud of the effort they put in. I thought from this game, considering everything that went against us with the illness, with the injuries, with the referee, that these players keep fighting for this coach and fighting and playing and sticking to our principles and sticking to the way we play. It's a huge confidence boost. And I was proud of the crowd of getting behind the players. And then, with all that in mind, when we then lose or don't get that equalizing goal, the disappointment becomes much, bigger. But you also come out of that game feeling that this can still work, and that's my take from it, at least.
Yeah. No, thank you, Simon. In the 62nd minute, we make a triple change, try and get back into the game, try and get that second goal that sadly never came. And on came Maddison, Son and Basuma, and off went Werner, Sarr and Bergevall. Bergevall received a standing ovation, and the substitution was booed by some inside the stadium. Jim, before you go, were you surprised that he was taken off? But, is there a little bit of context behind it that Sarr and Maddison are both suspended for Wednesday against Liverpool, because Bergevall's going to have to play that game, isn't he, realistically?
Yeah, I mean, Barry Bowe for me was man of the match on the field today, and I think Gray and Barry Bowe are I can't think of two young players I would trade them for. I think we generally, if they develop at the trajectory they're developing, and Sarr as well. Can you imagine those three players hitting their peak potential? I think we'd have a monstrous midfield for the next decade, which would just be incredible, and all I think could captain their own countries. So I think it's so exciting. Yeah, he definitely came off because he's being protected for Liverpool. He's going to start for that game for sure, I think. So yeah, that was why he came off. And yeah, I as I said, I got to jump, but just wanted to say super excited about Kinski. I know you're going to get to him later. I interviewed one of the coaches at Slavia Prague today, who thinks he's going to be better than Vicario. He was saying that he's their biggest prospect since Petr Cech, and their whole fan base is just amazed by people thinking it's some cheap young option. They're like, you guys are so lucky you got him. If you waited to the summer, he would have gone to an even bigger club and Tottenham massive. But you had to get him now, and you did. So be interesting to watch that one. Now you're going to watch them have a clanger against Liverpool, aren't we? But I better jump. But lovely to see you all. Johnny, Simon,
thanks for coming on.
Connor, Harry, love to see you guys.
Love to see you. I just want to say, Jim, I'm a huge fan of you on Twitter. I think you have a great account.
Likewise, Simon. I've been following you a while, so thanks a lot, mate. Cheers. Cool. I'll see you later, guys.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Jim. All the best.
Cheers.
Thank you. Have a good evening. So let's keep the focus on that triple substitution. Johnny, I'll come to you. Bergvall, how good was he in that game for you?
I think he was good. I think one of the issues is that there's some other players that aren't playing as well as they could play, and it sometimes drags other players down into that. But look, he was as good as he could do, and I was surprised. I said it earlier in your podcast that I was surprised at the substitution. I thought some of the players that came on at 60 minutes should have started the game. That's look, I'm not the manager. He is at the end of the day. He picks the team. He knows more of what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe, as Jim said, they had the virus and they had the symptoms from that, so couldn't start. But if they couldn't start, 60 minutes before, an hour before, and they're able to start 60 minutes later, I mean, your symptoms don't change that quickly. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think. I'm not so sure whether it was the virus or not. It could have been, but I think if you have a virus like that and you have to keep running to the toilet, you can't play the game at all. You can't come on at 80 minutes, 90 minutes. You're just not able to play. And the fact that they came on 6 minutes, they really should have come on. They should have come on at the beginning of the game, and maybe we could have got all 3 points. But Bergvall, Porro, Kulusevski, they're the spine of our team at the moment, and we really need to rely on those guys to keep getting victories, because we're going to need them over the next course. But I understand that Ange doesn't play certain players because he wants them for the Liverpool game. There's 2 legs in that game, so we need to try and get the win there. But look, Bergvall's a great player, and I was impressed with him yesterday in the game.
Harry, you're muted.
You have on mute.
Love it. Thank you very much on what we're doing there. Talking to myself, of course. Very sad. Connor, come to you to my next point. Let's start this again. In this Spurs 1, Newcastle 2, what were your thoughts overall? Did we deserve something from the game?
Well, obviously, Ange said that we should have come away with something. Obviously, we'll get onto the whole equal playing field bit, but from what I've seen, it didn't look as close as it was made out to be. I think Newcastle probably deserved it slightly more if you take away the whole handball situation. But I don't know. I feel like we was too leaky to say that we deserved the win. Obviously, if you're just basing it off of the fact that we had a lot of shots on target, then yeah, we should have scored more. But we was too leaky in defence to say that we should have won that game, in my opinion.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you very much, Connor. Simon, what did you make of the game overall? When you talk about being very proud, do you think the players deserve something for their efforts, like Ange said? Because I think we did.
Yeah, I think what I actually think he was only talking about the refereeing in that handball instance and how that changed the face of the game and how the game was developing. I mean, Ange ball is all about game state, and so it's about scoring and then taking advantage of that and scoring again. And so when someone, disrupts that in that way, in such an obvious way, and I also think, I mean, sometimes what coaches say is not literally true. I thought it was also about his other job, which is keeping the confidence high in this squad and being bullish in the face of adversity can be about, instilling these players with a sense of confidence going into the next games that are coming. So if you asked him to give a tactical analysis in detail about how the game went, truly honestly, I think his answer would probably be a little bit different. I think this was his slick way of, criticizing the referee without, actually saying it. So all things being even is basically him seeing us having a referee that wasn't, a son of a bitch, honestly. And then, I mean, that's just at least my take on it, that he was actually talking about the referee, and he was just, I've never seen him that mad. And I watched every presser post and before. So I think it was just, he said it was gone, and so was mine. So I kind of understand it. And I actually hear what Johnny says about, being disciplined in these pressers. And I think again, I watched every presser he's done, and he's for the most of the time he's pretty disciplined with what he says, and he's pretty measured.
Yeah.
But he's had a couple of instances these last couple of weeks with the Werner comments. In this instance, where he kind of he's emotional.
It shows he cares. It shows he wants to turn it around.
And I think I think in this instance, with everything, all the eyes that are on him, and this pretty difficult moment, and him having to deal with all these issues, and then seeing his team go out and playing so well, or at least with so much energy, and having this referee mess it up, it just felt like him railing against all that, and kind of his attempt of kind of getting everyone into the siege mentality, and I can see, that perspective from a leadership perspective, like him trying to, and I mean, Jose does this all the time. It's us against everybody, and it can work if you pick and choose when to apply it.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm with you on that, Simon. Johnny, do you think they're, positives to take despite the result? Obviously, it is another loss.
Yeah, look, I think what's keeping the fan base on board, or the majority of it, is the style of play. Because I think if this was Nuno, Santo, or Mourinho, or whoever we had managing us, and we were playing a kind of just a mediocre type football, defensive type football, and trying to win 1-0, Ange should probably be getting his P45. But I think because of the style of play he has, people are remaining positive and hoping, that the players that are injured are going to come back, and that we're going to improve, and that next season is going to be the big season. But Ange himself has said, and he put himself under pressure, I win something in my second season. Now, we've got Liverpool this Wednesday. We then have the second leg a couple of weeks after. We've also got we've got Arsenal coming up. And then we have a run of games that on any given season you'd expect to get 3 points. We've Everton, Leicester, and Brentford. And then I think Manchester United and Man City coming up in between that. So those 3 games, we have to get points against Liverpool. We'll have to get something against Arsenal. And if we don't get points from those 3 games, the other 3 games I mentioned, Brentford, Everton, Leicester, I think the atmosphere is going to change against Ange, because I think people have been quite patient with him because of the style of play. because that's the style of play we've all wanted. But because we've lost 10 games, some of the fan base are getting a little bit, wary, or it's just real. Should we keep it? And then most people are kind of saying, "Oh, it's great, I'll still put up with it. We got a virus, we got injured players, So there's positives there with the style of play, but my worry is because we don't have a full team to pick from. I think I'm worried about. I'm getting a bit worried because we're getting so near that relegation zone, Harry. And I'm trying to remain positive and see the positives. But the nearer we get to that relegation zone, because the Brentford games, we think 3 points. It's not going to be like that. Those teams are really they're not the weak teams like they used to be in the past. They've all improved. They've all got better. They've better managers, better coaches. So there's no certainty now we're going to get 3 points from those games. So I don't know where we're going to be. I don't know what's happening, really. I'm kind of getting a bit worried now. And then you hear him in the press conferences and he's kind of, well, do you think you could do better, mate? You know what I mean? I'm not being disrespectful doing the accent, but that's what it sounds like. And you're kind of afraid to ask him anything, Well, if you think you can do a better job, mate, you manage the team, mate, And it's kind of like, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm just saying, like you've lost 10 games. Why do you think that's happening? And then let him answer and see what his answer. But he was saying yesterday, it's not a level playing field. He said it 9 times, and apart from the handball with Joe Linton, I thought it was pretty much a level playing field. I just don't think we were good enough to beat Newcastle. And definitely the style's great. That's a positive style. Listen, I'm for that all the time, but we don't have the team to play the way he wants to play at the moment. And
can I just come back to that? Because I hear what you're saying. I do think there's a limit, but I think like you have to put it in perspective of this being, and I asked this on Twitter because I wasn't sure. I've been a fan for 10 years, but I haven't been a fan for 40, 50 years. But in recent memory, this is the worst injury crisis I've ever seen, ever. We had an 18-year-old central mid and a fullback at CB. And we had a third choice goalkeeper in goal. And it's been like that for weeks and weeks and weeks. And to me, it's not a surprise that we have the worst record we've had in 15 years or whatever, when we've had the worst injury crisis for 15 years. And so I hear you about the style. I totally agree with you that I think it's a big part of, a positive style, breathes positivity, and it's an identity that's in line with the creed of the club. But I also think that people are smart enough to see the context. I do feel like there's a limit. If we start getting around the relegation, I do think it's gonna get a lot of people so worried that we just need to save this season now, right? We just need to not be relegated. But I think we're far away from that. Because I honestly think, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I honestly think that when we get players back, we're not a relegation form team with our players in the team. And so I hear what you're saying. I hear that worry, but I have to believe that the club, and I'm not a big fan of our owners, and I do feel like we made mistakes in this summer, but I have to believe that reports of him being 100% safe are true in the sense of Lage, Munn, these new people coming in to head up the football operations, know what they're doing and know the consequences of taking a long-term approach to this project. Because you have to, when you look at Conte, when you look at Jose, when you look at how people turned, the brief of those projects was different. The brief was to win now because we had Kane and Son and Dele and Eriksen and all these, and Van der Ven, and all these players, not Van der Ven, I'm sorry, Lloris, all these players that were in their prime, ending like at the back end of their contracts, and we wanted to win something with them. This is a totally different project, and I have to believe that a lot of fans are also with Ange, but not only because of the style, but because they don't want to see us repeating this cycle of changing coaches every 18 months. And so they understand that in an injury crisis, we need to kind of see this through, to see at least at least what's on the other side. And then in the summer, if it's still not better, if we still haven't won something, then I think a lot of people might, see that we need someone else to take us to that next level.
Yeah, definitely. He needs to see some.
Sorry to butt in. I just wanted to kind of.
No, it's all right. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you to both of you. Before we hear from Ange Postecoglou, some quick fire stats. This is our worst home league record without a win in the same season since 1993 and the 1994 season. We've lost our last 6 games now against Newcastle. 10 losses from 20 games this season and just 24 points in those 20 games. In our last 10 games, we've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 6. Before we get into the January transfer window stuff, let's hear from Ange Postecoglou and what he had to say post-match. I think we've seen clips from different post-match interviews, but let's listen to this one, just over a minute long.
And you had chances at the end there. What are your thoughts?
Hugely proud of the players. Outstanding considering what the situation we're in. We deserved to win that game. All things being equal, we would have.
Do you feel a bit hard done by a couple of the decisions there? The first Newcastle goal, for example?
No, I don't feel hard done by. I just think that's the way they want to do things. So that's the way they want to do things.
Do you speak to any of the officials? Do you get any explanations? Are you going to pursue it?
The last thing I want is an explanation.
So you'll just let it be for today?
Well, I've got no choice, have I?
With the rest of the game, I mean, the amount of chances that you created in that second half, considering there's illness and everything going on in camp, what did you sort of say to the guys at half-time?
Oh, half-time, full-time, I'm just hugely proud of them. It's a game we should have won. We deserve to win. Like I said, all things being equal, we would have won. But these things aren't equal at the moment. So I couldn't be prouder of them. The way they played, their attitude, their ability to be resilient in the most extreme of circumstances, couldn't be prouder of them.
Brandon Austin as well, a word for him and his game?
Yeah, brilliant. Like I said before the game, you don't know when you get your opportunity, but he got it today and he was outstanding.
There you go, Ange Postecoglou there. Connor, what did you make of what he had to say? And you still fully behind Ange?
Yeah, I'm fully behind Ange. I saw you liked one of my tweets earlier, so you already know that I'm fully behind Ange.
I do.
It's just, it frustrates me when I see people saying Ange out. Obviously, I know everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I can't fathom why you would be Ange out now, because it's like I actually tweeted something the other day, I think it was, and it was that not a single Spurs manager has had a squad of their own players since Pochettino. And that wasn't even in this decade. So, I don't know. It's like, this is a team full of, we've still got players like Reguilon. That's from the Mourinho era. We've got players from the Conte era still at the club as well. They're not all Ange's players. And there's certain areas where we need players for him. You've got Son, who's starting to lose his legs a little bit. He's not an Ange player. And obviously, with someone like Son, if he was, on form and his normal world-class self, it wouldn't matter. But it does matter because he's not himself. We need players. And this is why I really like Johnson, because Johnson is a player for his system. We need stuff like that on the left-hand side as well. Because then I think everything would be balanced, that all the pieces to the puzzle would be in place and we can move on. And as well, there's this injury crisis. And I just don't think it's fair to start saying that, Ange out, when he hasn't even got the tools necessary. And I've also seen people say that it's his fault that the players are injured. Well, he's been forced to play so many of these players. You've got Van der Ven, who he has to start every game because you can't play Radu Dragusin, who doesn't even suit this system. He'd be much better in a Mourinho side, for example. He'd probably play a lot better for someone like that. Whereas he can't really play for someone like Ange because he can't play out from the back. And I've also noticed that a lot of the abuse for Dragusin, I feel, is sometimes unjustified because he's playing out to certain midfielders who can't take the ball on the half turn and then play forwards. So I don't know. I feel like I say, it all comes back to that thing where there's so many pieces to the puzzle still missing, and this is a squad full of players that aren't all the manager's players. So if you back him, give him time, let him be in charge of this project, eventually he will build a team, much like Pochettino did, of his own players, players suited to his system, that he will eventually be able to tweak. He will be able to change his team for the match day. And we'll see players have less injuries because they're used to the system and have like for like backups. And then we will see improvement. And then people won't be all Ange out and won't be so reactionary. And we can actually see progress.
Absolutely. I mean, I personally don't want to see us start another project back to square one. But, it's funny because you've got fans that are having a go at the ownership, Daniel Levy for sacking managers. And then they're going, oh, just sack Ange, or I would have sacked him at half time. Well, this is what you've been moaning about in the last few years, and you want to do it yourself. So I had a conversation with that guy the other day, and he went, "Oh, I suppose so." Well, what are you on about? I mean, Simon, what we call today on X? I mean, by God knows who was on X. Was it Ansexuals? Was that right? I mean, come on, it's petty, isn't it? So
it's petty, and also, I mean, like it's like if you want to convince someone. If you want us to come over to your side, insulting people is never kind of an effective way to doing it. And also, if your issue is with the coach and with the ownership, why are you making other fans like? Why are we getting the insults? Like, either you have an argument that can convince people, and like direct that towards people that can actually change things. I mean, I think the lack of respect of other people's opinions is kind of an issue I have, and also this thing of insulting fellow fans. I've never kind of subscribed to that way of arguing your point. I think it's a hard thing. To me, it basically comes down to, if we want to change the outcome, we need to change our behavior, and that also means stop, blaming the coach for stuff that the owners and the recruitment team should have sorted out. Who are we supposed to play instead of Vicario, instead of Van de Ven, instead of Romero, without also seeing a drop in results? Because we can clearly see that we don't have like-for-like backups. And so he's forced to play those players. He's forced to play Udogie when we haven't signed someone to actually be a like-for-like Udogie replacement.
100%.
So it actually comes down to us not having a squad that's able to kind of keep up with the style of play, which is a style of play that the coach, the owners, the recruitment team looked at and said, this is a way of playing that can win. And so they decided to go this way. And so it's their responsibility to give that system the resources it needs to work.
Yeah, no, definitely. But there'd be Spurs fans there that want us to lose because they maybe want Postecoglou gone, or they want to prove a point about the ownership. And this in particular fan, that accused us obviously of, in this post today with both of us. I went back and had a look, and he posted exactly the minute of full time in that Spurs Newcastle game, and had about 4 or 5 swear words in about people that were positive about Ange. I mean, he clearly loved the fact that Spurs didn't get a result, and you do get that, and is the split between the fan base, and it's sad to see. But Johnny, I'm going to bring you in on this and ask you about Ange's assessment, because there's a lot to get your teeth into. Ange's assessment there, and whether you're still fully behind him or not.
Just in the press conference, he was dropping a few hints that it wasn't a level playing field, or if all things were equal, all these kind of things. So when he asked that, I would have said back to him, well, what do you mean now, if all things, you don't think all things were equal in that match? Is that what it is? And they, well, I'm not prepared to talk about it, mate. Well, then don't mention it then. Why mention it and then you're not going to follow through? And then he says, I'm going to be fine, mate. It's like, I am fully behind him. I think if we beat Liverpool and then go on and win the final, and we finish mid-table, I think at this moment in time, I think the fan base will accept that, and that'll be a trophy in the cabinet. But I think over the last 20 years, I think the fan base, because we've gotten used to not winning, or just getting to a final and failing at that situation. We've been conditioned to accept sort of mediocrity. I'm not being disrespectful to the fan base. They're a great fan base, and I'm one of them. But I've been over to games. I go from Dublin over to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I went to White Hart Lane. It costs a fortune to go over there. You know, for me, I have to stay in a hotel overnight. I have to buy the tickets. I have to get the go by Ryanair or Aer Lingus, and I don't get as much as a Christmas card from the club every year. And he's going on about, you know, he's angry. Well, I'm bloody angry. I bought a scarf last week. I bought the jersey the week before. I bought a tracksuit. I bought a bag. I'm bloody angry. I'm an investor. Same as Simon, same as Connor. We're all investors in that club. If anyone's angry, me. I'm bloody angry. And he's going on about, like, we have lost 10 games. We're getting closer to that relegation zone. And he can say all he wants about injuries and viruses and all that. At the end of the day, it's about getting 3 points on the board. And if you can't manage that, well then, you know, something has to change. But I'm behind him. I'm behind him because everybody else is behind him. It's almost like you're afraid to say now that you're not behind him, because then you're negative or you're against the project or something. I mean, was everyone else behind Mourinho?
Johnny, listen, you are saying this in such a respectful, such a loving way, and I totally see that perspective. I mean, I hate the fact that you feel like you have to be angry or afraid to express that emotion or that opinion, because it's opinion, and also it goes down to we interact with the club differently. It means different things to us. We have different views of football, what's good football, what's bad football, different perspectives of personalities. Like, some people think it's arrogant, some think people love it. And so that's just opinion and perspectives. And, you know, there's so much that goes into that. I think it's how you express it, and that fact that you have to have respect for exactly what you're saying.
But most of the time, is people are on social media. They're not even using their own face on the account, and they're just using some sort of cartoon figure, and then they're having a go at you, and they're sending you all sorts of abuse. That's what it is now, and so people feel they can just say what they like. Whereas I try to say it in a calm, articulate way. Doesn't mean I'm right. I could be wrong. You know, maybe Ange will go on and beat Liverpool and we'll win the thing, and then it'll be great. You know, we'll be cup winners and all. But not everyone's going to do that, and so you're going to get attacked. And I get attacked regularly. You know, I remember when I criticized the captaincy of Son, I had the whole of South Korea on my back. I said Romero should have been the captain, and I live to regret that one. But anyway, that was, you know, you live and die by what you say sometimes.
Well, that's true. No, but respect to you. You know, as Simon says, you put your point across absolutely fairly. And then, you know, in this podcast, you've expressed balanced, you know, both views of Ange Postecoglou about how you feel. You know, he deals with those interviews, but also what he's dealt with the injuries and suspensions. So I totally respect that. And then, you know, I totally get a balanced view at the moment anyway, but you put your point across really well. Before we hear from the Newcastle fans who sent a couple of Newcastle fans that sent in clips, it's all funny how they're, you know, keen to do it after the result. We couldn't get anyone to do it before the game. Just saying, nah, they're good. They're good guys. We're here for them in a little bit. We get on the jam window, and we'll also quickly preview Liverpool. But last player, Brandon Austin, I want to talk about. Connor, I mean, solid debut, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought he did really well. You know, considering, you know, his third choice keeper, he's probably maybe League One at best, you'd imagine, but he's done a job. I'm pretty sure, Johnny, it might have been you who said it earlier, that, you know, not sure how long notice he would have been given. And he's gone out there and he's actually performed quite well. You know, you get some people, it's either you're going to fail because you're nervous, or you're going to take the opportunity and perform quite well. And that's what he did. You know, I remember I sat down trying to watch some of the game, and there was one ball where he literally just, every time he got it, he would just throw it. And he was throwing it across to either flank. And there was one time where he pinged the ball probably about 40 yards to the left-hand side as well. And I just thought, to play with that sort of confidence when you're not even, not even the backup goalkeeper, you're the backup goalkeeper. I think, I don't know, I quite admired it. And obviously, if the fans were cheering him on quite a lot, as Jim was saying earlier, and obviously it seems like that must have helped him.
Absolutely, yeah, I think it certainly did. Let's hear from the two Newcastle fans. We've got a really long video and a really short video, so let's do the short one first from Toon Tactics. So big up to him.
And you get to reflect and look at stats and look at other things, but you also got to use your eyes, I suppose, and especially in the second half, you guys took over the game, which is unusual sometimes when you guys play against us. You guys have the ability, you pull men forward. I thought your young man Archie graded really well, and Draguzin, I thought Isak could have done a little bit better against them, but those guys stayed kind of firm. The Tottenham player that really impressed me was Bergvall. The way he screened and protected your back four, and progressed where the ball from there, from the back as well. So for me, Spurs man of the match. For us, it was Bruno. His intensity, his play was incredible. So commiserations, but see you next time, guys. God bless.
Thank you to Toon Tactics. Very short. I like that. Straight to the point. Now here's the bit of the longer video from Baz for the Through Black and White Eyes YouTube channel. I had the privilege to go on both channels before the game. So let's hear what he had to say. I mean, he's done a whole podcast here himself, I think.
Hi, Harry and the channel. Thank you very much for inviting me to do this video from Through Black and White Eyes. The review of the Spurs game. So as you can imagine, I'm a very happy bunny now. That's 5 wins in a row in the Premier League. We could make it 6 when we face Bournemouth or Wolves. I can't remember which one's next, but we've got obviously a semi-final of the Carabao Cup to worry about. The same for yourselves. After all the team news, I was quite bullish a little bit, but then when I saw your team, I thought, ooh, it's still dangerous. And the bench looked very, very strong. And after a few minutes, I thought, oh, God, here we go. Great goal for you. Pedro Porro was, what a cross. And Solanke showed why you paid the money you paid for him. That diving header was superb. And I was thinking the worst. And but it only took a couple of minutes. Spurs being Spursy, it's what you guys do, unfortunately. Well, obviously not, unfortunately for you guys, but not for me. It's not a handball. Please stop saying it's a handball. His hand never went towards the ball. It was down by his side. It struck his hand. I give you that, but it wasn't in a natural position. And the rule is, as long as it doesn't lead to a goal directly from the handball, as in if Joe Linton had put it in or Joe Linton had set up someone, he didn't. It was Bruno. Bruno slid in Gordon fantastically, and what a finish from Gordon. He's starting to get back to his best now. We are starting to get back to our best now, and that was a great goal. And I thought we bossed the first half. After the first 20 minutes, I was like, Botman, Tino need to up the game, and they did. We should have really went, 3-4-1 up at half time, if I'm completely honest with you guys. I mean, Gordon had another great chance in the same position, but he was off balance. Isak slid one just past the post before he scored. We got a little bit lucky with the deflection, but I think it was going to go in as an own goal anyway. It was a great move again. Bruno at the heart of it with a pass to Murphy. Lovely cross, and obviously Isak gets his studs on it just to slide it into the bottom corner and to put us 2-1 up. And I was thinking we should have put yous away, and we hadn't, and that worried me a little bit going into the second half, and it especially worried me after 60 minutes when I saw the triple substitution. I felt very sorry for Bergvall. I thought he had a fantastic game, but he went off, and obviously Maddison, Pasuma and Son came on, and you were knocking on the door. Maddison very close, there was that cross shot that could have went anywhere, and you were brilliant in the second half. I can't compliment you enough. I thought you stuck to your philosophy, your game plan. Ange nearly got it spot on, but Eddie Howe ended up being the man who got it spot on. And a massive shout out for the young man at 18 Gray at the back, he was superb for me. He looks like a player. You've got two superstars on your hands potentially with Bergvall and Gray. I was very impressed with him. Such a mature head on young shoulders. He wasn't scared to get into the mix of things. He reads the game so well. So things are bright for you guys. You just need to get rid of this injury crisis. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought Ange was terrible after the game. I thought the things he said were wrong. Yes, he's frustrated, but he shouldn't be saying, that we cheated or it wasn't a level playing field. It was, and he needs to understand the rules before he starts slagging off the officials, because that handball would not be given in the penalty area. So why would it be given outside of the penalty area? This whole thing, because it's not in the penalty area, it's outside the penalty area, it should be a free kick. No, a free kick's a free kick, a handball's a handball, and when the rules are right, you've just got to accept it. He's a man under pressure, you can tell, but we had this problem last season, and we got over it, and I'm sure he will as well. We wish you best for all of the rest of the season, and especially for the, knocking Liverpool out of the Carabao Cup. So hopefully we can have a final together. That would be a great final, I think. But thanks again for letting me do this, and Happy New Year, everyone. And we'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Baz for sending in his thoughts. I think a little bit of Newcastle bias sneaking in there, just a little bit. And I think he doesn't, quite likes following the rules. It's fair to say when it suits Newcastle. But there we go. Simon, can I ask you about Newcastle and how you thought they played? Because they're in form at the moment.
I think they played well. I think they definitely dropped off second half. I think they tired out some from playing such an intense style in that first half. But I mean, they play like Newcastle do. And they play in high intense style. I love Gordon. I love Isaac. They're so prolific and clinical. I mean, I still think we're the better team. I thought we were the better team when we played them away. I think we have less maturity, and I think they are very physical, which is something we can struggle with a little bit. And I think they totally are a little bit cheeky with the time wasting, which is something I both respect and annoys the hell out of me. I saw a tweet from Charlie Eccleshare where he said Newcastle is a team that's refereed totally differently. And I don't want to come back to this, but I kind of felt it particularly in this game. They play well. I'm not the biggest fan of Howe. So, I mean, I'm never going to be super excited about how they perform, but they're a solid team, and he's done a great job with the level of in both recruiting and getting the best out of his players. So, I mean, fair play to them.
Yeah, indeed. We thank both the Newcastle fans for sending in their thoughts. Before we get on to Liverpool, quick touch on our new signing, goalkeeper Anthony Kinski, who signs from Slavia Praga on a contract until 2031, and also wear the number 31 shirt. So there you go. He's 21 years old. He's played 19 games, kept 12 clean sheets, and conceded 7. No goals conceded from corners. I mean, get in. That's my favourite out of anything here. Champions League experience as well. Connor, are you happy with this signing? And also, by the way, I should add in work permit he's now received, so he can play in the Liverpool game. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this signing?
I saw that earlier about the work permit. I have to see him first before I make my opinion, but from what I've heard, he's supposedly quite good on the ball, good with his feet. I've got a friend who already knows about him, and he speaks quite highly of him. And also what Jim had to say, because obviously he gave us a little bit of insight earlier. And the Slavia Prague fans, they sound quite like they've got a lot of praise for him. Obviously, they said who was it he spoke to?
He was like a ex coach, I think, at Slavia Prague. He had some kind of connection and worked with the goalkeeper. So,
he was saying that he said that he's the best was it goalkeeping prospects they've had since Petr Cech. So
Yeah,
you know,
I've got it here. Slavia Prague under 17s coach Jonathan
well,
Davis.
we'll have to see. But yeah, only promising things I've heard so far, and we'll get to see him on Wednesday. Obviously, don't be so quick to put him down if he does have a bad game. But you know, I look forward to seeing him.
Absolutely. Johnny, what are your thoughts on our signing, for what you've maybe heard or seen, or if you have any insights or opinions about Kinski?
Well, I hadn't heard of him, to be honest. You know, there's no point in me coming on and saying, "Oh yeah, he's a great player." I've watched him loads of times in the Czech Republic.
I appreciate that.
But no, apparently his father met Daniel Levy a couple of days ago. You know, so Daniel went over to the Czech Republic, to Prague, to meet Kinski's father to sort out the deal. But 12 months ago, I think he was playing for another team other than Slavia Prague, and no one really thought much of him at that stage. But I think he had 19 appearances and only let in 7 goals, if I'm not mistaken. This season for them. So, judging on Twitter today from a few Slavia Prague fans that I could see, they're disappointed they're losing him. So some of them were saying, you know, you're getting a great player, you know, and he'll be good for the future. But again, you know, we're always buying players for the future. So I want players for now, you know what I mean? And I know you have to start somewhere, but I just want somebody really good, like, you know, a world-class name or somebody just to come in and just to give us a little lift. But no, I get it. You know, he's one for the future, and so is Bergvall, and so is Brandon Johnston. You know, I know all those guys are for the future, but we need a big signing now or something just to give us all a little bit of a lift, you know, to give the team a lift. But I don't know if there's a top signing available in January. That's the problem. But by all accounts, this goalkeeper is good. Yeah, he's good on the ball, and he's made a lot of saves, and he's good hands, as they say. So, you know, that can't be a bad thing. But we have a lot of goalkeepers now. Is that right? Would we have a lot of goalkeepers in the team? It's how many have we got now?
Yeah, we've got loads.
Around 5.
Yeah.
Jeez, we'll never run out of goalkeepers anyway, that's for sure.
I want to see Josh Kearley when he comes back from loan, but that won't happen. It looks like at this point.
There we go. Simon, can I get your thoughts on the new signing, first of the window?
Yeah, brilliant signing. I mean, I thought we were going to get someone much more short term, like someone not as talented.
Sam Johnston.
Johnston was someone I was kind of pleased with. I know he's not a great goalkeeper, but I just wanted someone better than Forster and Austin. And to me, Johnston is better than them, at least. This is actually a keeper. And Johnny, this might be good news for you. I actually think he does help us right away. I think he's better, clearly levels above what we have right now. I think he will compete with Vicario, like in the right way, meaning he would be able to play European games and cup games. And, you know, Vicario will be the starter when he comes back and is fully fit with his experience. But, you know, this is a player with the experience enough. I know he's young, but with experience and talent enough to actually come in and us not losing too much, especially as he, you know, how we play, it's so important. And I think it's such a new way of playing in some ways for us, considering we had Conte and Jose for so long. But it's so important to have a keeper that's not just good with the feet, the ball with the ball at their feet, but actually brilliant and calm, because it just starts all our attacks. It just gives us a much better platform to actually execute what we want to execute, and especially when we don't have our first choice, you know, defenders. So I've been worried about the cups. I think having a good goalkeeper, the difference between actually getting somewhere in the cups, which is where we have our best chance to get Europe, our best chance to get a trophy, and our best chance to kind of give and some momentum, are the cups. So I actually think he starts against Liverpool. I think he could be the difference in this cup, in these competitions coming up. because I don't think we'll see Vicario at least until March. I know February is what's been said, but he hasn't even started training. He just got his boot off. I think he's, at least 6-8 weeks away. So, yeah, I think it's a really important signing that will help us right away. So, yeah, I'm super pleased to answer your question.
Yeah, definitely. And as you've all said, I don't necessarily know a lot about it, but everything you hear looks good and looks like good recruitment from Spurs. There'll be more content around the January transfer window. So if anyone's interested, do check it out at the channel as well, multi-platform. But for now, we move on to Liverpool Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. Johnny, we'll kick it off with you. How are you feeling ahead of this game? Obviously, it is a big one. And what would your lineup be? Bearing in mind the likes of Sarr and Maddison are suspended, but Kinski now available.
Well, the strongest lineup he has to put out, because it gets so confusing who's missing and who's not missing. Like Son anyway should start. And is Maddison suspended? Is he?
Yeah, he's suspended along with Pape Matar.
To be honest with you, I thought Liverpool yesterday were pretty disappointing against Manchester United. That's, I think, they still didn't lose. They still got a draw. And maybe they were saving themselves for Wednesday. I mean, Arne Slot's going to want to win a trophy as well, his first trophy for Liverpool. So we're talking about winning our first since 2008. You can be sure he's going to want to win his. And any team that has Salah in it is always so See, because we leak a lot of goals, Salah is going to be so dangerous because he doesn't stay in one position. He's moving around all the time. And I'm not feeling very confident about it, Harry, to be perfectly honest. I'm sort of at a stage where we'll see what happens kind of attitude, because I never know what to expect. We could score first, but I never feel like if we score in the first 5 minutes, I'm still nervous because I'm thinking Liverpool are going to come back. Just like Newcastle came back, are we going to be able to hold them off? And that's the worry. But if you want a score prediction, I think it'll be Liverpool to win both legs, to be honest. But there's always hope. It's a semi-final and anything can happen, as they say. You never know. Liverpool might have a bad night, but then you have to go to Anfield. And I doubt they're going to have a bad night there. You know what they're like in front of the Kop. But I'm reasonably, I think it's 70% Liverpool, 30% Spurs, if I'm being honest, to win. And I think the bookies will do that. The bookies will go with that. Opta will go with that as well, But there's always hope. You never know. Son might have an absolute amazing game. And Brandon Johnson can play. He's not suspended or anything, is he? No. So
I know of.
Yeah, well, he's dangerous as well. And and I don't know what goalkeeper we're going to put there, but if it's one of the inexperienced ones, that the Liverpool guys are going to be told to put a lot of pressure on. So I don't know if Fraser Foster is going to be back, but whoever Ange picks, I'm sure will go out and do the shirt justice, and they'll do the best they can. I just don't think we have enough to beat Liverpool in their current form.
Okay, no, I think that's fair and completely understandable. So thank you. Connor, can I get your thoughts ahead of the game and also your lineup, bearing in mind the team news with all the little what we know of it so far?
I'd be putting Kinski in goal, probably, because Forster just doesn't do it for me with the ball at his feet. And obviously, if we already know that Kinski is going to be quite good with his feet, that's something I'd much rather have. I feel a lot more comfortable with us playing out from the back if our centre-backs can actually play it back to the goalkeeper, knowing that he's going to find a player. But at the same time, we need to make sure there's players in that midfield dropping deep to receive it, which sometimes doesn't seem to happen with the recent lineups that we've been putting out. But for me, I think, it's not necessarily something we're desperate for right now, because the last time we played Liverpool, we scored 3 goals, but we're going to have a lot more firepower because we're going to have the likes of Mikey Moore back. Richarlison, he was in first team training, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be back as well. So there's going to be more firepower, but for me, it's just, again, worrying about that defence. I'm assuming Dragusin will start again if he's okay after after Saturday's game. But yeah, for me, it's just worrying about the defence. But I think it could be a big day for some of the young players. I think it's time for them to get a taste of a big match, because this is going to be one of the biggest games that Brennan Johnson's ever played in his career, one of the biggest games that Archie Gray's ever played in his career. And it's time for these players to show us what they're made of, and to kind of develop that winning mentality. And that's what I really want to see. If we can go ahead and win the Carabao Cup, that's a great taste for some of these young players, winning a trophy earlier in their careers, and developing that winning mentality.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you very much. Simon, what would your lineup be?
Kinski in goal, Gray, Daguson, Porro, Spence. It's going to be Bentancur. It's going to be Kulusevski. It's going to be Berval. It's going to be Solanke. It's going to be Johnson. It's going to be Son. I think the game will come down to luck. It will come down to meaning we need some desperately, and considering how much bad luck we've had, we need some. It might be time for us to get some good luck, and that goes to exactly what Johnny and Connor is talking about. We need our defense to get lucky, and we need our attack to actually score some goals and be able to, and the team to be able to kind of sustain the pressure that's going to come our way. I think Ange will need to have a game plan, and I know he will never say it, but he knows this cup is important for him. I think he knows these cups are the best way for him to get that trophy that he didn't promise, but he spoke about that he's won previously in his second year. But it's also our best way to get to Europe, as I mentioned earlier. I think because it's a two-leg game, a two-game, what do you call it? Fixture.
Two legs.
Two legs.
Two legs. I think Liverpool hopefully have their main focus is on the league, and they might, in this game, rotate a couple of players, at least to start with, knowing that they have the second leg at home where they can kind of fix whatever happens in this game. So yeah, I think we're the underdog, obviously, but also this team has shown up when they've been the underdog, and I think what Connor says about the event might actually spur these players on, and they might surprise us. But we're obviously the underdog, as Johnny rightly points out.
Yeah, we are the underdog. I like that in a way. You go into it with hope, but not that expectation. But we'll have to see. Simon, can I get your score prediction last?
Let's say 2-1 Spurs.
Okay. 2-1 Spurs. Love it. Love it. Underdogs, but we're going to win. So it's what we like, favouring the underdogs. Connor, what's your score prediction?
I'm going to say 2-2.
Okay, 2-2. Oh, that wouldn't be bad. Going, Anfield, we'd have to get a draw.
It'd be scary.
Or obviously, win to go for. Yeah, it would be scary, but it would be worse, I think, if we go into that having lost the first game. So it could be worse with your score prediction. I'll take that. 2-2. Thank you very much. Johnny, what are you thinking? You're going to keep up the...
If Liverpool play their strongest team and Luis Diaz and Salah are all playing, I think it'll be 1-3 to Liverpool in the first leg. And I know it's not what you want to hear. You know me, I have to say it how I see it. I may not be right.
Honest. But, it's honest, and we respect it, Johnny.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd love it to be 2-0. Don't get me wrong, but to Spurs. But I mean, I just think with this Liverpool team, they're just able to get goals, and they're very, very fast and just very accurate in scoring. So if their firing boots are on, we're in trouble. But if they don't have a great night, look, if it's 1-1, we can bring it to Anfield and hope for the best at Anfield. That's it. Just go for it at Anfield. So 1-3, I'll go with to Liverpool in the first leg, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that wraps us up nicely for this week's episode of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. Thank you very much. A long one, but a very good one. Firstly, Simon, thank you very much for coming on. You're always welcome. Where can people find you across your socials?
You can find me on this name on all social media. Twitter is where I speak about our beloved club. I want to thank you, Harry. You're, per usual, an amazing host. I can't believe how young you are. And Connor and Johnny, what a pleasure to meet you guys. I'm always happy to find new Spurs friends. Thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have an excellent evening. So thank you very much for joining us. Connor, thank you very much. Again, it's been a little while, but it's always fantastic to have you on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Same as usual, Hotspur Things on Twitter.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And Johnny, very solid debut from yourself as well, along with all the other guys. Welcome back anytime. Where can people find you across your social media?
Yeah, you can find me on X, Johnny Bowe 1, and I'm on Dublin's Q102 here in Dublin, a radio presenter there, and you can listen to me there. At the weekends I do a kind of a music and a sports show, and but I'll be on tomorrow from 1 o'clock, Q102.ie.
Love it. Thank you very much. Spoke like from a radio presenter. Love it. Thank you very much. If you are new to the channel, please do smash that subscribe button. It helps the channel and the podcast grow. If you're listening via podcast platform, your audio, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Check out our sponsors, Security VPN and Kitman. Follow all these guys across all socials. Most importantly, though, keep the faith and a massive come on, you Spurs.